Hello, I'm Locke Meredith with Legal Lines. I'd like to invite you to join us on the next show. We've got Senator James Cain. He's been a Louisiana state senator and in the House of Representatives for over 31 years. He's been there through a lot of governors, and he's got a lot of expertise and a lot of knowledge. We're going to talk about the Stelly tax plan, what the big issues for the state are for the new Governor Blanco and her new administration, and his position as chairman of the Insurance Committee. So join us on the next Legal Lines coming right up. Welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. I'm very pleased to have on the show Senator James Cain. He's a Louisiana state senator, been there for over 32 years. Is that right?
Well, almost that long.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. Give me a little personal information.
Well, I grew up in western Louisiana. I'm still there. And I used to be a basketball coach. I'm lucky enough to be in our state basketball Hall of Fame, and I played in college. And that was my life dream, just to coach basketball. And I did pretty good at it. And I got the offered assistant coach at Louisiana Tech, and I said, well, I believe I'll pass on that. I believe I'll get the head job at McNeese. Head job came open. Politics got involved. I didn't get it, and I said, well, I'm in the wrong business. Now I'm naming the coaches. Just kidding, but that's what got me over.
That's how you were introduced to it.
Yeah, I was introduced to it when I applied for a college basketball job, and I said, I need to get involved.
And is that when you got involved in politics?
I got involved. I ran for state representative, and it's the first job I'd ever run for. It took me 11 months. I saw everybody in the district, and they voted for me.
Where's your district?
Western Louisiana. Beauregard, Vernon, Sabine, Calcasieu parishes, Fort Polk area in western Louisiana. That's why we're part of the state that talk different. A lot of people say, well, why do you talk like that? I can't say right, fine, light, type, or not right. But we talk different over there. A lot of people think we're in Texas almost.
You sound pretty Texas.
I know I do.
Well, tell me, so you were elected as the state representative over there, and how long did you hold that position?
20 years. And then I knew it was time to go up or get out, and I went to the Senate, and I tell people I was part of the problem, I believe. When I first got elected, I thought if you give a guy a handout and get him on his feet, well then, the world would turn around and it'd be better. We were wrong. We got third and fourth generations now on welfare. It didn't work. And so about 5 or 6 years ago, I began to travel the state and talk to other people in Louisiana, and got involved with the water issues and brought the water issues to light. And I began to travel around Louisiana and talk about water, and felt like that we need to do something about the water issues in Louisiana, and got that started. And during that time, I began to hear from other people across Louisiana. It certainly made me a better legislator, and every legislator ought to have to go in other parts of the state and talk. Because if you did, the people there will tell them what you need to hear. In your district, sometimes they'll tell you what you want to hear. And I began to hear people loud and clear, and they were fed up with taxes, and I began to vote different. I voted for the least amount of taxes the last 5 years of any legislator.
It takes a pretty big man to sit there and say for 20 years he did the wrong thing.
Pretty much. And but I would just stayed in my little district, listened to my people, stayed in my little world. And that's why I encourage other legislators to go out. Last year we made 75 speeches across Louisiana. When I leave here today, I'll run to Donaldsonville, make a speech. Next week I'll be in Spring Hill. And people hear me talk, and I talk about things that what we did in the past, what we should do now, and they listen. I was on the committee to save the saints. I thought, well, great, let's save the saints. I think New Orleans ought to pay for it. I didn't think Shreveport ought to. So they put me on that, and then I got on the issue of against income taxes. I thought income tax is the worst thing you could do to people. Why punish a guy for working? You really shouldn't do that. And they said, and I've traveled the state saying it wasn't good.
And these are positions contrary to what you'd taken previously.
Well, pretty much, but after you begin to listen to people and figure out, you got to admit, sometimes when you're wrong, you got to take 3 steps back, start over again.
You got some history behind you, though. You've been there through Democrats and Republicans and Democrats and Republicans and the good and the bad.
I honestly changed parties. I turned my life completely around. I did a back-over flip. But look, sometimes you got to admit that you were wrong, and sometimes I was young. I got down here young, and we did some things that, looking back on it, we thought that's what we ought to do. And I believed that, hey, let's just give people handouts. They'll get on their feet. It didn't work. I was wrong. And I admit I'm wrong. I was wrong. I'm not wrong now. Now, one thing I did do the whole time I was here, I never ate or drank with lobbyists. I'm the only legislator, been here 30 years, and I'm on nobody's expense account. Nobody ever wined and dined me. Unless they take the whole legislature out or the whole committee out, I don't go. It's not anything I dislike about lobbyists. You know what a lobbyist is? A lobbyist is somebody walking up the revolving door, and they're behind you, and you're in front of them, they'll come out ahead of you. They're slick. But I learned real quick, don't fiddle with those two people too much. You got to listen to them, but I mean, you don't I don't let them wine and dine me, though.
And the reason is you want to maintain independence?
Yes.
You don't want to be
Yes.
influenced improperly? I mean,
Yes.
I know you're not saying that every lobbyist is...
Oh, they're all good. They're all
trying
good.
to
They've got to tell the truth. If they lied, they wouldn't be there 5 minutes. They're all good people. But I just don't think that's the way we as legislators... I saw legislators when I first got here, and they say, who's going to take us to lunch today? Well, I said, I didn't think that was right. Maybe that's one reason I got overweight. I went to the movies and ate hamburgers.
How do you think the process, the political process, needs to change? You've been there a long time.
We've got to get more independent of the governor. I tried to pass a lot of bills the last few years to where we could be more independent from the governor.
What do you mean be more independent from the governor?
We need to take name more of the boards. The Senate. Now we confirm them. I tried to do this, and my good friend Jay Darden fought him. And fought him up and down, and a good friend of mine, because he was a floor leader for Foster.
I've had Jay on the show.
That's right, he was a floor leader for Foster. Now that same person said, well, we need to get more independent from the governor, because he's not on a good team with Blanco. So I guess it's whose ox is being gored. I mean, I've been friends with all the governors. I mean, I came in with Edwards, I've seen them come and go. There have been some good governors, and there have been some that I wouldn't, I'm not going to say which one, but some that you just couldn't get a decision out of them. That's one thing, and some that one or two, one of them you just couldn't hardly believe.
Really? That we can figure out who that is.
He was from North Louisiana.
Tell me, then, you're saying maintain independence. How would that be accomplished? Legislation?
Well, by legislation, we need to take more. See, you've got the executive branch, the judicial, and the legislative. The executive branch in Louisiana...
And let's describe what they do for the folks.
Well, the executive branch is the governor and that group, and that runs executive offices and so forth, and sets up all the different heads of the different departments. Then you got the legislative branch, that's the House of Representatives and the senators, and then you've got the judicial, the judging, and so forth. But the executive branch has got so strong in Louisiana that they just manhandle the legislature.
In fact, one of the strongest governorships in the entire United States, as I understand it.
And they manhandle the legislature. They handpick their head of the House, head of the Senate. The legislators ought to be doing that. But we don't. We cave into them.
I know that there was a dispute for a while between Hankel and Governor Blanco's chosen person.
Sure.
But ultimately, the governor's
Blanco's won because she's the governor. And because she has the power to capital outlay projects in your district,
funding,
line item vetoes,
pass out the money, and we as legislators have to take more control. I tried to pass lots of legislation about 3 years ago about this. Didn't pass one piece. Well, no governor is going to allow you to reduce their power.
No, you can't do that.
And that's understandable.
And the floor leaders of that particular governor, which one of them was Jay Darden, my good friend, fought it. Same ones, the same now will say, well, look, we need to take more power back. It's just, like, again, it's when you're there. But it's sad in a way. But one of the things, my pet peeve right now is taxes. People are taxed to death. And that's why I travel the state and fought the income taxes that Stelly so-called put on. They did put them on. Let me tell you this. It's very important that the public knows this. They told the people it was going to be tax neutral. Tax neutral. Well, now it was tax neutral the first year, but you know why? It didn't start until June the 1st. We'd already paid our income tax, see? That was a trick right there.
All right, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and follow up with that discussion of taxes on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines. We've got Senator Cain on. We're going to talk about taxes. Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. I'm very pleased to have on the show Senator James Cain. He's a Louisiana state senator. Again, Senator, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's talk about the taxes. I know that's a sore subject for you.
Well, it is. The people were told on the Stelly plan it would be tax neutral. Every time they open...
Let's define the Stelly plan real quick.
Stelly plan is making up the income tax, putting the brackets higher, taking all your itemized deductions away from you. If you give to your church, you can't take it off your income tax. If you've got a home mortgage, you can't take it off your income tax. I tried to tell the public that, and we went out of state and tried to tell it. They say we're helping the poor people. But we gave the poor people $143 million in food stamps every year. They're already eating with food stamps, which is good. They deserved them. They needed them.
Absolutely.
But they don't pay sales tax on that. So what we did, we shift a burden from one group of people to another group of people, and that group of people is the guy that makes between $30,000 and $150,000. Two school teachers, a school teacher and maybe their wife works at Walmart, they're going to really get their income taxes are going to go way up this year.
And this goes in effect this year?
Went in effect last year, actually. They said it would be a tax-neutral thing.
Which means what?
That it would be, you swap out, you take away the sales tax on food, but we up the income tax. It'll be neutral swap.
So you're not going to pay any more money?
But that's a bald-faced lie.
Explain to me why.
Okay, because the fiscal office now has admitted that in the first 10 years of the Stelly income tax, it will bring in I'm going to repeat that, $845 million more dollars to the state coffers.
So if it's neutral and wasn't going to increase it, where's the money coming from?
It's coming from income tax, right off the backs of the middle-class people. That's where it's coming from. And it just really aggravates me. I call it a self-mugging. The people mug themselves. And I don't really blame legislators for voting for it, so to speak.
I mean, who sends out the information and sells a tax plan like this and doesn't explain? I don't understand that.
Well, I debated.
And who do you blame?
I debated these people, and to find out they didn't want to debate me anymore, and they wouldn't debate me anymore. They gave out false information.
Who's they?
Well, Vic Stelly did it at first, because he said it only cost 8% of the people more money. That's what it'll say. 8%. This little people segment of people, 8% is going to cost you. That's the only one that's going to cost more money.
And 92% of the population will not pay more.
That's what they were told. And that wasn't true. We found out now that's not true at all. That it's going to be like way over 50%. Anybody who makes more than $30,000 is going to pay more. So that just wasn't true.
Pay more than what they were paying when it was just a sales tax.
So the legislators got false information. The House voted it through. Whoom. It came over to the Senate. By the time it got to the Senate, I began to look into this a little closer. This can't be. So I got up and began to study a little bit and made a fiery speech on the Senate floor about it. And I had about 15 or 20 House members come say, "I'll get a copy of that speech. We voted for it. We didn't know it did all that." I said, "Sure." And I handed out copies. And we began to fight. A few of us began to fight the tax. But the governor, Foster, at that time was for it. He was trying to bring in more money to the state. And he had some money to put on television and radio. I didn't. And the last few nights, they passed it. And it's unfortunate because now the middle class is really getting hurt, and it's sad. So during this special session coming up, in the regular session, I filed a Senate Bill 1. It's called Senate Bill 1, the first bill, to give us back our deductions. Now,
explain to the folks what a deduction is again.
Okay.
If you donate money to your church, you can take it off of your income, and thus your income's lower, and the tax rate then is not as high.
Itemized deductions, and about 40% of the people itemize, and those are the people who got hurt real bad too. Because let's say, for instance, you put your mother in a nursing home, God forbid, and she has to pay $30,000. All of her check goes into the nursing home. Well, Then what happens is you can't itemize that off of your income tax. So besides that $30,000 that she made over her retirement or whatever, you got to pay about $1,000 a day in income tax on it.
On that $30,000?
Yeah, because you can't itemize it anymore.
Whereas before you could.
Yeah. I mean, heaven forbid, I don't want to talk about gamblers, but even gamblers. Okay, a gambler comes to Louisiana. I'm not a gambler. I didn't vote for gambling. It's here. We're making money off of it. But a gambler gambles in Louisiana, let's say he wins $100,000. He loses $100,000.
Well, that doesn't bother me a whole lot.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But that guy, he can't take his 100 off either. He can't itemize. So he's going to go to Las Vegas and gamble, quit gambling here. That's fine, too. Would the state end up losing money? I'm just using that as an example.
I understand.
You lost all your itemized deductions.
Give me another example of an itemized deduction.
Home mortgage. A young couple marries, they get married, a school teacher, and somebody just graduated from LSU. They got a home mortgage like most of us do. And they can't take that home mortgage off their income tax.
Meaning the interest they pay on the mortgage.
Interest they pay off that. So they can go over to Texas and get it.
Which could be $10,000 or $5,000.
Right.
And now they're going to be taxed on that $5,000 or $10,000.
You're driving young couples out of Louisiana. They're the kind of people that's leaving. 2 school teachers. I mean, that's the kind of people you can't take. Give to your church. Just give you another one. Give to your church. People give to their church. Give to their different churches. Used to, you could itemize it off your income tax. You can't anymore. Not with the Stelly plan.
So what you going to do?
Okay, because I filed this bill that I'm going to file it next week. Governor Blanco left me a loophole to get it in the bill, get it in the legislature, and so we're going to put it in the special session that phase it in like she's doing the business taxes. If you're going to give business a break, that's wonderful. Give the middle class a break. Give us one too. Phase it in over 10 years. Cost about $13 million a year. That would phase it in over 10 years, starting next year. Now say, what you going to cut? We're not going to cut anything, because remember, it's going to bring in $845 extra million. So we're taking some of that extra money the state's going to start collecting and just giving it back to the people.
Instead of letting the state legislature and the governor spend it where they
That's
want
right.
to.
You still got $715 million left that they're going to get extra. Now, the fiscal office, that's their numbers. That's not mine. So that's a win-win. Any legislator that vote against that ought to be beat the next time he runs.
What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, they're going to work on us. I think that the governor's office will probably be against it. I went up there and talked to her about this, and I like her. I think and she listened to me, gave me 30, 45 minutes. I said, Ms. Blanco, if you'll put this in during the special session, you'll be a savior to the middle class. Honestly, it'd probably get you reelected because probably you may get elected anyway. But I said, you're giving business a break. Give the middle class a break. You shouldn't punish a person for working.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's giving us a break. It's just putting us back where we were.
Well, not really. Because,
not even really.
Because the brackets are still going to be higher.
Right.
See, the brackets went up. So you're still going to pay more income tax.
No matter what.
No matter what. But at least give the poor devils back their itemized deductions so we don't tax the church. And basically, indirectly, we're taxing the church because you're
taking away the ability for donations to be made.
That's right.
Interesting.
So this is a bill we filed. We've asked as many co-authors as we could get. We
got in?
Yeah, there are people are calling in. I just got a call today from a senator, Lambert, I think, is a new senator, a representative from South. He just called. He was going to come on. Mike Michaud at Lafayette calls it, put him down right quick as he could. We're getting Scalise just called from South and down around Slidell, put him on.
What do you tell the folks that are watching the show to do to encourage it?
Tell your legislators to vote for Senate Bill 1 because it gives you and gives the public and the working class people a break. It gives a guy that works at Exxon, his wife works at Walmart, or a school teacher, gives them a break.
Anybody who makes over $30,000 will get a break.
Pretty much. If they itemize, they'd get this break for sure. And a lot of people should itemize if this goes through. About 40% does now.
Well, let's talk about, kind of wrap that up on the next segment, and then let's talk about the other big issues before the government right now. This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines, and Senator Cain will be right back. Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and again, very pleased to have on the show Senator James Cain. Senator, again, thanks for being on the show. Been there in that legislature for over 31 years, and you got a lot of experience, and I appreciate you being on the show. Well, let's talk about the economic picture of Louisiana and the other big issues of not only economics but also education.
Well, you know, we're not, some people say we're really bad in education, but we've come a long way in the last few years. We've put a lot of accountability things in, and I think it's going to help.
In fact, Richard I was just talking about that.
Yeah, and I think that we've come a long way towards helping education in Louisiana. And, you know, we've got to do something and help the schools in New Orleans because, see, we're all pitched into one big pool, and sometimes they've got some good schools down there, but we're going to have to work with them to help them to even make them better. Because now they've got a grading system. So that's got to be done, and we're working on that. So I think the education part's on the way up. We're on the
We're still pretty low, aren't we?
We're low, but we're not as low as we were. So we're going up, and we're gradually going up every year. That's a good. We're not going up and then going down and going up. We're on the way up every year. And
so what else do we do? We've got this accountability for teachers and students. You're talking about, I guess, a better allocation of funds to districts that clearly need it.
Yes.
What else can we do?
And we've got the teachers' pay raise up pretty good. We want the very best and brightest to be teachers. I mean, I used to be a teacher, but I'd dig roots and herbs before I'd go back in the classroom.
And the reason is?
Well, the pay was bad, number one, but that's one thing, but just the atmosphere was not that great. But we've made that a lot.
And that was 30 years ago.
Yeah, and we've made it a lot better now. It's a lot better. We got the pay way up there. The first year I taught, and I'm not going to tell my age, I made $3,600. You know, if I hadn't been in the Army 2 years, I would have made $34. So that's not long ago. That was in 63 and 4. I was starting to teach school. So we've come a long way from there. So a lot of people would go into the plants and work at the plants, bright people, and work shift work. Instead of teaching school, they can make so much more money. Right. So we didn't have the very brightest in the classroom.
So we need some money.
Money. And we've got it up there. Our average teacher salaries now is around $38,000. We're way up there now, doing pretty good. And so we're getting up. So that part is doing, I think, pretty good on the education. I think we're on the upswing.
So just keep doing what we're doing. Paying the teachers what they need to get to stay and maintain an accountability of the students and teachers and control of the classrooms.
Right.
Right.
And the other thing that you were mentioning to me about was about water. I want to mention that because I was chairman of the Environmental Quality Committee, and I'll be brief on this, but I got a call from some people in Eunice, Louisiana, and asked me would I come over and hold a meeting there. There was a merchant power plant going to locate that. Now, let's tell our listeners what a merchant power plant is.
Because I don't know what it is.
A merchant power plant is a power plant that will come in and generate electricity and ship the electricity all over the United States. Could ship it to Mexico if they wanted to.
So it has nothing to do with Louisiana?
Not much. They would create about 9 jobs. About 4 of them probably would maybe could, if we're lucky, get them from Louisiana. But they generate a lot of electricity. And so, but they use a lot of water. And they were going to stick a hole in the ground and use about 8-9 million gallons of water a day right out of the aquifer. And the farmers were upset that they were going to use the water up, and I began to research it and found out, gosh, I mean, they're going to create this many jobs. They're going to use our grids. Now, the grids, for the listeners, is the power grids going across. You remember they had a blackout in northeastern America?
You could watch all that go out.
Yeah. Well, they were going to use our grids to ship this electricity all over the United States. Who's going to pay for it?
Using our resources and not, in essence, paying
so
for them.
you had 13 of these people that had applied for these power plants, one in Bogalusa, one up in the peach orchards in Ruston. And so I began to do research and found out that, look, these things are not that great for Louisiana. If we need electricity, yeah, but why didn't they locate on the Chapelai River or the Mississippi River or somewhere instead of sticking a hole in the ground to get aquifer? Well, we found out that we didn't have any water policy. Anybody from Texas come over here and just stick a hole in the ground, take our water back. San Antonio wants our water. They offered the Sabine River Authority up there about $400 million for our half of the water going in the Gulf of Mexico through the Sabine River. They need water over there in Texas. So we were just throwing it away, letting the good times roll. So I began to travel the state, tell people we need to have a water policy, and people listened, and we do have a watered-down water policy. But at least we got it started. It was too big a deal for the last few governors to handle because...
Why would you not charge for a resource like that?
Well, again, people don't... it's something that traditionally they've got for free, and water is, it's something that you have a piece of land, the water under it's yours, just like the oil under it's yours. And we didn't. People do have some people that charge. Right here in Baton Rouge, you have some of the best water in the world. It's probably 1,000 years old. The water here and the aquifers here. Where the problem was in North Louisiana, where they had started, they were beginning to hit salt water. You wonder why do you hit salt water way up in North Louisiana? It's not near the Gulf of Mexico. Well, I guess the main reason, according to geologists, they just started using the water about 1 million years too quick because the water hadn't turned to salt water, hadn't turned to sweet water. They've got some serious problems in North Louisiana. If we don't do something within 10 or 15 years, they're going to start hitting more and more salt water. And they've got to start conserving. And I want to say something right here. The biggest industry in North Louisiana was Stone Container in Jonesboro. And they are good corporate citizens. They were using some 15 million gallons of water a day. They're down to about 7 million gallons a day because of my going around the state and asking them to do this. James Davidson, an entrepreneur in Ruston who built Squires Creek Golf Course, when we did this, he went out there and built ponds to water all the golf courses. He's using that and using sewage water. So we've come a long way on the water. Conservative. That was a good thing that we did, and I'm glad I had a part in that, traveling the state at my expense to do that. So that was a big issue with us, and it brought it on for the next few years.
As I understand it, you've been appointed as the chairman of the insurance committee.
Yeah,
Explain that.
I asked the new president of the Senate, would you take me off environmental quality? I had 2 good bills in 4 years. I had the water, and I had what we call the Corbella bill. And I don't want to go into that. That's another bill over in southwest Louisiana. But if you like watching grass grow, it's a wonderful committee. But I got tired of that. I wanted more action. I wanted to go to some place where I could do something. Now, insurance is a terrible problem in Louisiana.
It is.
And so they wanted to put somebody who knows nothing about insurance. I know nothing about it. But I'll tell you something. I'm going to learn. But you got to go into sometimes with someone that doesn't know a lot about it, not set in their ways.
I agree.
That's how you change.
Because you're open to being educated.
Open to be educated. I've had a seminar already on insurance, brought in all the people that do the insurance. That's maybe like the Fox watch the in-house. I've got to hear their side of the story first, is why we have the problem we have. The main thing we have is already I found out is competition. We've got to get more competition here. We've got to get more insurance companies to come here. We've got to do something about coastal erosion. You say, well, what's that got to do with insurance?
I was about to say, what
Let me
does
tell
that
you
have
something.
to do?
If we lose all the barrier islands, all the coastal islands, everything, the hurricane comes in, the wind blows as far north as Alexandria.
Okay, makes sense.
That's a state problem. It's not just a local problem. I'm learning a lot about insurance. We've got to do something about fraud, especially in New Orleans. I'm going to name a spade a spade. They got a lot of fraud down there. They're stealing a lot of cars. They're doing a lot of things. That makes everybody's insurance go up. If we don't put some teeth in those fraud laws, get the district attorneys and others to prosecute what we put in, and get the judges to get some sentences, and let people know if they fraud, through some fraudulent insurance. You're driving my insurance up, your insurance up, all your family's insurance and people's insurance up. And I'm going to put some teeth in those fraud laws.
We're very glad to have you on the show, and I look forward to you heading up that committee. This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines and Senator James Cain. Thanks for being with us.